So Module 1, Introduction to Cybersecurity and the Threat Landscape. In this module, what are the objectives? We are going to understand what cybersecurity is and what it means. We're going to look at the core security principles. We are going to identify the goals, motives, and objectives of information security attacks. We are going to classify this kind of cyber attacks. We're going to explain the different layers in which these attacks occur. We are going to also identify the common threat sources and how to mitigate them, understand malware distribution, and also differentiate between the various types of malware. Now, because this module is introduction to the threat landscape, we are going to be breaking down most of these cyber attacks to the granular, most simplest level, so we can understand the simplicity behind the complexity of these attacks. Now that brings us to what is cybersecurity. Before I define cybersecurity like what you have on your screen here, I always try to explain why cybersecurity, what birthed cybersecurity. We are in the industrial revolution of data and AI, right? And between 2010 and now, the number of applications we have blown the market. Number of people who are using connected devices on the internet have surged over 500%. And all of this technology, all of this innovation, these applications we are using, they all thrive with data. Data as in our personal data. And when these systems were being built, when they were being developed, they were developed to function, to work, to perform the task. Security wasn't really imagined as a necessity. But with the events of cyber crimes coming, different cyber attacks, like the Swift bank heist, the Bangladeshi bank heist, the I Love You virus, the S-bombs, the Stuxnets for the Iranian plant, and all of those that just kept coming up, made us realize the power that these systems had in the wrong hands. Hence came the point of, aside from we creating systems that work, we have to create systems that work in a secure manner, systems that work and are resilient to attacks. That's what birthed cybersecurity. And because the objective of this birth of cybersecurity was to prevent cyber attacks by ensuring that our data is secure. That no one can gain access to our information, no one can modify our information, and no one can render our services unavailable. Those were the fundamental objectives of cybersecurity. And now, today we are studying cybersecurity. We define cybersecurity based on those fundamental objectives that birthed cybersecurity in the first place. That cybersecurity is the practice of protecting systems, network, devices, and data from unauthorized access. This unauthorized access can be either exploitation of seeing the data or manipulating the data. From unauthorized access, cyber attacks, theft, and damage. Theft and damage are attacks that would affect the availability of that information. So it also involves all the different technologies, the processes, the frameworks, the practices that we want to implement to defend our assets, to defend our digital assets as well as our physical assets, to ensure the security and privacy of information. The key elements of cybersecurity. Remember, we said cybersecurity is as you would gather from the introduction, someone says cybersecurity is very broad. That's true. Because cybersecurity is broad, is why we have different elements of cybersecurity. We have information security, we have network security, application security, endpoint, cloud, IAM, disaster recovery, user awareness and training. All of these elements of cybersecurity happen to be also stand-alone job positions in cybersecurity. where you see network security engineer, application security engineer, endpoint security engineer, cloud security expert, IAM officer, disaster recovery expert, on cybersecurity trainers. So all of the elements of cybersecurity, they are not just limited to these 8, they are more. Okay, so just to give you an expository onto how broad the industry is. And the training is going to take you through every aspect of cybersecurity, allowing you to niche down on your own into the aspect of cybersecurity you are most interested in. Now, why is cybersecurity important? I'm sure with the introduction we've given, we will see that aside from protection of sensitive data, maintaining business continuity, safeguarding financial assets, reputation management, legal and regulatory compliance, there are a lot more to this. On network security fundamentals, after looking at cybersecurity threat landscape, the next can do without is to understand what network security or what networking is, basically. Because we're talking about cybersecurity, and cyber means the connected world, the internet. So we need to understand what is the internet, what is a network, and what are the security limitations, security concerns, and best practices surrounding network security, which is the objective of this module, as you can see itemized on the screen. Now we began with introduction to networks, networking, and IP addressing, where we explained that a network is a collection of connected devices. Your Bluetooth device make up a network. Your smart TV, your laptop, your phones, all connected to your Wi-Fi, they make up a network. And we also talked about the types of network based on geographical area covered or their size or their function. The smallest being the personal area network, which is what we have here. Your smart devices are connected together, watches, etc. Followed by the local area network, which covers a small office or your home. So now the next arm of cybersecurity that we'll be looking at is identity and access management. This is the aspect of cybersecurity that talks about how do we grant and manage access to our systems. That is, how do we ensure that the system that we say is secure, those who will grant access to it, that access is being granted in a secure manner. We can monitor what they are doing. We have control over the kind of access that we grant them. We are using the right technologies in giving this access, and we are adequately managing the activities of users in that environment, and as well as the different regulatory frameworks or standards that we adhere to in terms of managing the access rights of users or services or applications. Let's understand the concepts of identity and access management and what is the role that IAM plays in cybersecurity. One important thing that I like to highlight here is the fact that we said IAM is a foundational pillar of cybersecurity, and it is very important to understand proper access management, because if access is poorly managed, it could also lead to unauthorized access, and there is no hack involved. We normally assume that every data breach or every security breach, an hack was involved. If your access is not properly managed, it means an attacker can just walk straight into your organization, into your system, into your service without any hack being involved. That makes IAM very important. Module 4, we're talking about asset security with a focus on data security, cryptography, and data protection. So, we've established what an asset is. That asset is anything of value to an individual or an organization. So, because of how broad asset classes are, I'm not going to be talking about physical security of physical assets and all of those. We are going to be focusing on the critical assets that are of importance to an individual or an organization. That's why we are specifically talking about the security of our data assets, security of our information, and security of the systems that we are using to process those information, and security of data as it is being processed in every phase of a data lifecycle. Now we are going to begin with what the data lifecycle is or what data lifecycle management is. If you recall, when we're discussing IAM, Identity and Access Management, we established that there is usually an identity lifecycle, which is from when a user is provisioned or created on the system to when they exit the company to when they are removed from the system. And similarly, same applies to data as well.
Introduce you to Module 9, ethical hacking and red teaming. We're going to be looking at reconnaissance. We're going to be, sorry, we're going to be looking at password attack. We're going to be looking at how to access vulnerable machines with Metasploit and also carry out privileged escalation with Metapreter in the MSF console. So, the first thing we are going to be doing is um, the reconnaissance, okay? Carrying out passive reconnaissance. So the ethical hacking methodology has five main phases for ethical hacking activities. The first is information gathering or reconnaissance, or some will even say footprinting, where we are just gathering as much information as possible. Now there is a separate section that deals deep into information gathering called OSINT, Open Source Intelligence. That will be the final module. But whenever I want to carry out any ethical hacking or pen test activity, the first thing you want to do is just like how a cybersecurity analyst wants to know everything in the system, right? So you can know how to protect the system. An ethical hacker too must know everything about the system and what it is built with, where it is hosted, how it works, so he can know how to also what breach it. So among the first tools we are going to be looking at or carrying out this reconnaissance is Netcraft. So if we go to Netcraft site report, see it says here the Netcraft site report provides detailed insights into the technologies and infrastructure used by any website, including server technology, hosting providers, and performance metrics. Now, Netcraft is a web-based application, so it doesn't require any installation, right? So, which is why I'm just opening it from my system, not necessarily having to log into Kali enough before I open Netcraft. Okay, so go to net site report.netcraft.com, and all you just put in here is the URL of the site that you want to access. We are going to do for this test PHP copy. Then I just paste the URL here. And I click look up. Alright. So here is the site report for testphp.vulnerableweb.com. Site title, home of Acronetics Arts, the site network, the net block owner, the hosting company. So today is module 11, and module 11 is OSINT and social engineering. Okay, which is OSINT is short for Open Source Intelligence. And you recall that that's the same thing which happens to be the first step in any VAPT assessment, about gathering information, as many information as possible. So we can say that we've already done OSINT, in one of our Wednesday classes, but nevertheless, we are still going to go slightly deeper into it. But then I decided that instead of just repeating what we've done in the Wednesday class, right, in this final class, that we should do a recap of everything we've done from Module 1 down to Module 10, where we are now. And recall that you also requested that I provided a list of all the tools that we have looked at in this cohort and what they are used for. Okay, so and everything you see here, are the tools that we have learned in class. The OSs, starting with the OSs, Kali Linux, Parrot, Ubuntu, Mmap, Nito, Nessus, OWASP, ZAP, security headers, Cyber URL, 10, Wireshark, TCP DOM and T-Shark, Uptime Robots, Metasploit, the Metapreter, WhatWeb, OIS, Boxswift, Netcraft, the Wayback Machine, the 256 Sum, Virus Total, Abuse IPDB, MobSF, BuiltWith.com, Quick Stego for steganography, Terminal GPT, Multigo, Google Docs, then the frameworks, NIST, CSF, RMF, ISO 27001, and NIST Special Publication 883. And then we also leveraged using simple office tools to build a risk registered GRC monitoring dashboard. So then here you see what the tool is used for, right? What the tool is used for, and an example use case of what you can use the tool to do. Then at the end of the list of tools we looked at, then I created project ideas for every tool. So these first three, is all talking about building your own lab with. You set up Kali, Parrot, and Ubuntu and have them all connected. And before you now start setting up your Metasploitable and your Windows machine, which are solely to serve the purpose of target machines, right? So I can have devices on your network. Okay, and so you see here Nmap. So all of these are project ideas that you can do and also propagate what you've done on LinkedIn, even to make yourself known, to build your profile, to build your portfolio, to show your activities, your learning processes. Um, so all of these project ideas are what I've listed here. Now this one is outside of VAPT plans that we are doing. This is outside of the capstone project that you'll be given. Is these are things that will give you an idea of what you can do with what you have learned. So it doesn't have to be something grand, you know. Simplicity can be very powerful when done correctly, right? And then yes, on each page I added a message for you guys that is there is no shortcut in cybersecurity, only consistent practice. And every tool you master, every skill you master will bring you one step closer to your first cyber role.